It was late Thursday evening when I discovered something that would destroy my life before saving it. I sat alone at my desk, reviewing quarterly payroll reports before the Friday deadline, and noticed a pattern in the deleted time entries. 1,500 hours. Gone. $75,000 in unpaid wages, systematically erased over 6 months. Every deletion approved on a Friday, every signature the same. Jamie Cortland, VP of Operations. My hands trembled as I cross-referenced the backup logs I kept privately. This was not a mistake. This was theft. Friday morning, I gathered my printouts and headed straight to HR. My stomach churned with nervous energy, but I felt confident I was doing the right thing. Beth Winters, our HR director, had been with the company for 12 years. She had photos of her grandchildren on her desk and company service awards lining her walls. If anyone would handle this properly, it would be Beth. I knocked on her open door. She looked up from her computer, smiled warmly, and waved me in. "I need to talk to you about something serious," I said, closing the door behind me. Her expression shifted to concern. "Of course. Ada, sit down. What's going on?" I spread the printouts across her desk, walking her through what I had found. The deleted time entries, the pattern, the missing wages, the approval signatures. I explained everything carefully, showing her the documentation I had compiled. Beth's face changed as she reviewed the documents. The warmth drained from her eyes, replaced by something I could not quite read. She set down the papers and looked at me for a long moment. "This is a sensitive matter," she said slowly. "We need to handle this internally first." Relief flooded through me. "Of course, I understand." Beth picked up her phone. "Can you come down here? We have a situation." 5 minutes later, Jamie Cortland walked through the door. My relief evaporated instantly. Jamie was tall, polished, always wearing suits that probably cost more than my monthly rent. His smile never quite reached his eyes. "Ada, thank you for bringing this to our attention," Jamie said, settling into the chair next to mine. "You're very diligent. But I think there's been a misunderstanding." "I don't think so," I said, keeping my voice steady. "These are deleted time entries, 1,500 hours over 6 months. Jamie's smile tightened slightly. "Those are timing corrections. Some employees were accidentally overpaid earlier in the year. These entries correct those overpayments." I flipped through my documentation. There's no record of any original overpayments. No documentation of corrections, just deletions. "Are you questioning my authority?" Jamie's voice remained pleasant, but something cold flickered in his expression. Beth interjected smoothly. "Ada, we really appreciate your thoroughness. You're clearly good at your job, but this is above your pay grade. These are complex payroll matters that involve executive-level decisions." I looked between them, understanding dawning. They were not going to investigate. They were going to bury it. Beth leaned forward. "Here's what we need you to do. Fix the payroll quietly. Adjust the records to match the corrections Jamie made. Make it look clean. Can you do that?" My mouth went dry. "You want me to falsify records?" "We want you to finalize the corrections," Beth said. "This doesn't leave this room. For your own good, Ada. This is how things work in the corporate world." Jamie stood, buttoning his suit jacket. "I'm sure Ada understands. She's a smart girl." After he left, Beth fixed me with a hard stare. "Think carefully about this, Ada. You're young. You have a career ahead of you. Don't throw it away by making waves." I nodded slowly, my mind racing. "Sure, I'll take care of it." "Smart girl," Beth said again. "I'll check in with you Monday to see your progress." I walked back to my desk on shaking legs. My coworkers tapped away at their keyboards, completely unaware that I had just been asked to commit fraud. I sat down, pulled up the payroll system, and stared at the screen. Then I opened a new folder on my desktop. I titled it Budget Projections 2025, something innocuous that would not draw attention. I began copying every piece of evidence I had into that folder. Every deleted time entry, every approval signature, every backup log. I pulled out the USB drive I kept in my desk drawer for backing up work files. I copied everything onto it. Then I used my phone to photograph each printout, uploading them to a private cloud storage account. My hands were steady now. If they wanted me to be complicit in fraud, I would play along, but I would document every single step. I would protect myself. And somehow, I would make sure those workers got their money back. I stayed late that Friday night, creating 2 sets of records. One showed what Beth and Jamie wanted to see. The other preserved the truth. I encrypted the real documentation and emailed copies to my personal account from my phone, not the company network. Before I left, I did something I had never done before. I searched online for whistleblower protections. I found the Department of Labor hotline number. I found information about retaliation. I copied it all down. Walking to my car in the dark parking garage, I felt the weight of what I was about to do. I was going up against executives with power and resources I did not have. I was risking my job, my reputation, maybe more. But 1,500 hours meant something. It meant parents missing bedtime with their kids to work overtime that never got paid. It meant people taking extra shifts to make ends meet, only to have that work erased like it never happened. I got in my car and sat in the darkness for a moment. Then I started the engine and drove home to plan my next move. Monday morning felt different. I arrived at my usual time, 7:30, and headed straight to my desk. I logged into my computer, entered my password, and waited for the system to load. Access denied. Incorrect password. I tried again, carefully typing each character. Same message. I called IT. Derek answered on the 3rd ring. He was young, maybe 25, usually friendly and helpful. Derek, this is Ada in Payroll. My password isn't working. Oh yeah, there was a security update over the weekend. System-wide password reset. Let me generate a new one for you. His voice sounded off. Flat. He avoided making small talk like he normally would. He gave me the new password and I logged in. Everything looked normal at first. Then I checked my recent file access logs, something I had learned to do in my IT training. Someone had accessed my computer over the weekend. They had looked through my files, my recent searches, my email. My hidden folder was still there, still encrypted. They had not found it, but they knew I had been digging. At lunch, I left the building and sat in my car. I pulled out my phone and searched LinkedIn for Tracy Sullivan, the name I had seen in old employee directories. Former senior accountant at our company, left 8 months ago. I sent her a careful message through LinkedIn. Hi, Tracy. I'm a current colleague at XYZ Corp. I'd love to connect and chat about your experience there. She responded within an hour. Don't use your work email. Here's my personal number. I called her immediately. Tracy? This is Ada Brennan. I work in payroll. Her voice sounded strained. What's this about? I found some discrepancies in payroll. Deleted time entries. I went to HR and they asked me to cover it up. There was a long silence. Then Tracy laughed, but it was not a happy sound. Of course they did. That's exactly what they did to me. My heart pounded. What happened? I found the same thing 11 months ago. Maybe 150 hours at that point. I went to Beth Winters. She was so understanding at first, said she would look into it. 2 weeks later, I was being written up for performance issues I never had. They documented fake mistakes, built a paper trail. Then they gave me a choice. Resign quietly with a neutral reference, or get fired for cause, and have that follow me forever. I felt sick. What did you do? I resigned. I had to. I couldn't fight them. They had lawyers and resources, and I was just one person. She paused. I had a nervous breakdown, Ada. I was in therapy for 6 months. It destroyed me. I'm so sorry. Don't be sorry. Be careful. They're systematic about this. They've done it before, and they'll do it again. Tracy's voice dropped. Talk to Scott Hammond. He works at the county assessor's office now. He was before me. 3 years ago. Same thing. After we hung up, I sat in my car for a long time. I was not the first person to discover this. I was not even the second. This was a pattern, a system. They had refined their method of silencing whistleblowers. When I returned to the office, Beth Winters was waiting at my desk. Ada, just checking in. How's the cleanup going? Going well, I said, forcing a smile. Should be done by Wednesday. Wonderful. Her eyes were ice cold despite her warm tone. Remember, discretion is everything in this role. I watched her walk away, her heels clicking on the tile floor. She glanced back once, and I saw it clearly. She was evaluating whether I was a threat. That evening, I used a computer at the public library, not my work or home computer. I compiled everything into a formal report: the deleted hours, the amounts, the dates, the approval signatures. I included screenshots, documentation, and a detailed timeline. Then I called the Department of Labor whistleblower hotline. The woman who answered was professional and thorough. She took down all my information, explained the process, gave me a case number. "Don't let them know you've reported this," she advised. "Document everything going forward. Keep copies of all evidence in a safe place, not at work." "How long does an investigation take?" 4 to 8 weeks, typically. My heart sank. That was a long time to keep up this pretense. A long time to be under their scrutiny. What if they retaliate before then? "Document it. Report it to us immediately." "But I'll be honest with you, Miss Brennan. These cases take time. You need to be prepared for that." I also filed a report with the State Labor Board. 2 agencies investigating meant 2 chances for justice. Walking back to my car from the library, I felt exposed. The parking lot was poorly lit. Every shadow seemed threatening. I kept checking over my shoulder. I drove home taking random turns, watching my rearview mirror, making sure no one was following me. I felt paranoid, but Tracy's voice echoed in my head. They destroyed me. That night, I barely slept. Every sound in my apartment building made me jump. Every car door closing, every footstep in the hallway. I had filed the complaints. There was no going back now. I just had to survive long enough for the investigators to do their work. In the darkness, I stared at my ceiling and wondered if I had just made the biggest mistake of my life. Wednesday morning, I arrived at work to find Beth and Jamie waiting in the large conference room. My stomach dropped when I saw Frank Martinez there too, the company attorney. He was in his 50s, always stern, with a briefcase that probably cost more than my car. "Ada, please sit down," Beth said. Saturday. My hands were already shaking. Frank opened his briefcase and pulled out a stack of documents. "Miss Brennan, we've discovered some concerning irregularities in your expense reimbursements." He slid printouts across the table. I stared at them, confused at first. Then I understood what I was looking at. Expense reports, dinners at restaurants I had never been to, office supplies I had never purchased, gas receipts from stations I had never visited, $2,300 worth of fraudulent claims, all with my employee ID number, all with what looked like my digital signature. "I never submitted these," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. Jamie leaned back in his chair, his expression disappointed. "Ada, we trusted you. This is extremely serious." I looked at each receipt carefully. The dates, the amounts, the forged approvals. Someone had created these. Someone had planted them in my file. "These are fake," I said. "Someone fabricated these." Frank's expression did not change. "We have digital records showing these were submitted from your workstation, using your login credentials." My mind raced. Derek. Access. They had used Derek to plant evidence in my accounts, just like they had accessed my computer over the weekend. "This is a felony," Frank continued. "Embezzlement. We could prosecute. You could face prison time." Beth folded her hands on the table. "However, given your previously clean record, we're willing to make you an offer." Frank slid a new document across the table. A resignation agreement. I would quit immediately, repay the $2,300, and sign a comprehensive non-disclosure agreement. In exchange, no criminal charges. Neutral reference. You walk away clean. I read the NDA carefully. It was pages long, full of legal language. But the core was clear. I could never discuss anything about the company, including any payroll matters, including any investigations, including any complaints I might have filed. They had boxed me in perfectly. "You have until end of business today to decide," Jamie said. "After that, we file a police report. Can I have some time to think?" Frank snapped his briefcase shut. You can consult an attorney if you wish. That's your right. But we need an answer by 5 p.m. I left the conference room on unsteady legs. I went straight to my car and called Jessica, a friend from college who had become a public defender. Jess, I need help. I explained everything as quickly as I could. Send me photos of all the documents, she said. Let me review them. I sent everything. She called back 20 minutes later. Ada, this is sophisticated framing. But here's the problem. Even if the charges are false, fighting them is expensive and time-consuming. It could take months, cost thousands in legal fees. And you'd have an arrest record during that time, even if you're eventually cleared. So what do I do? Don't sign that NDA. Once you sign, you're silenced forever. You can never tell your side. You can never help any investigation. But if I don't sign, they'll press charges. Then you deal with the charges, which is your right. Tell them you need to consult with an attorney. That buys you time. At 4 in the afternoon, I went back to Beth's office. I need to consult with an attorney before signing anything. Her expression hardened. That's your right, Ada. But you should know that we'll be filing criminal charges first thing tomorrow morning. That's your right, too, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. The standoff was clear. They wanted me silenced. I refused to be silenced, so they would destroy me. I went home to my apartment, a small one-bedroom on the 3rd floor of an older building. When I reached my door, there was a notice taped to it. Eviction notice for non-payment of rent. 2 months overdue. I pulled out my phone and checked my bank account. My last 2 rent checks showed as reversed. Stop payment orders, orders I had never authorized. I called my landlord, Greg, a man in his 60s who owned the building. Greg, I just got an eviction notice. I never stopped payment on my rent checks. My bank shows the stop payment orders came from your account, Ada. What am I supposed to think? Someone accessed my account. This is fraud. Then you need to sort it out with your bank. But I still need my rent. I called my bank's fraud department. After 45 minutes on hold, I finally reached someone. We'll investigate, the representative said. But it takes 10 business days. I don't have 10 days. I'm being evicted. I'm sorry, ma'am. That's our standard timeline. I hung up and sat on my apartment floor, eviction notice in one hand, phone in the other. They were not just trying to silence me at work. They were systematically destroying every part of my life. My bank account, my home, my reputation, my freedom. And I had no idea how to fight back against people with this much power and this few scruples. Thursday morning, I forced myself to go to work. I had to keep up appearances. I had to pretend everything was normal while my life fell apart. But when I reached the building lobby, 2 police officers were waiting. Ada Brennan? Yes? You're under arrest for embezzlement. The handcuffs were cold against my wrists. My coworkers stared as the officers walked me through the lobby. I saw phones come out, people filming, whispering. I looked up and saw Jamie Cortland watching from the 2nd floor railing, arms crossed. Beth stood beside him. Neither showed any emotion. These charges are false, I said to the officers, my voice breaking. You can explain at the station, ma'am. The ride in the police car was surreal. The booking process was humiliating. Fingerprints, photos. They took my jewelry, my belt, my shoelaces. They put me in a holding cell with 3 other women. I sat on the metal bench and tried not to cry. 7 hours later, Jessica arrived with a bail bondsman. Bail was set at $5,000. I did not have it. The bondsman arranged it, but it would cost me $500 I did not have either. Jessica lent me the money. When I finally walked out at 9 p.m., Jessica was waiting. They filed charges officially. Arraignment is Monday. I didn't do this. I know. But proving it will take time. She drove me home. When we pulled up to my building, I saw neighbors in windows watching. Carol from down the hall, who used to smile and chat, turned away when she saw me. Inside my apartment, I checked my phone. 47 notifications. I opened the local news website. There I was. Local accountant, arrested for embezzlement. The comment section was brutal. People I had never met, assuming I was guilty, calling me a thief. Worse things. I closed the browser and just sat in the dark. Friday morning, I received an email from HR. I was suspended without pay, pending investigation. No access to the building, no access to my work computer, no access to any company systems. They had cut me off from everything. My phone buzzed. A text from Hannah, a coworker I had considered a friend. I can't be associated with this. Sorry. 3 other coworkers sent similar messages, or just stopped responding entirely. My parents called from 2 states away. My mom was crying. Come home, honey. Just leave all this behind. I can't, Mom. I didn't do anything wrong. Then why are you arrested? Because they're framing me. My dad got on the phone. Sometimes you have to know when to walk away, Ada. After the call ended, I felt more alone than I had ever felt in my life. I spent the weekend applying for jobs. Retail, food service, anything. Most applications asked about criminal history. I did not know how to answer. Technically, I had been arrested. The charges were pending. One coffee shop called me in for an interview. The manager seemed sympathetic until his boss saw my name, Googled me, and told him they could not hire anyone with pending charges. I checked my bank account. My savings were depleting rapidly. Legal bills, the bond payment, regular bills, rent I still owed. I had maybe 2 weeks before I was completely broke. Sunday evening, I got an email from Patricia, the Department of Labor investigator. Miss Brennan, we received your complaint. We need to schedule an interview to discuss your allegations. The available times were 2 weeks out. I responded immediately. I've been arrested on false charges. This is retaliation. Can you help? Her response came an hour later. We'll note the retaliation in our file, but our investigation process takes time. Continue documenting everything. Do not destroy any evidence. I wanted to scream. Time was exactly what I did not have. That night I could not sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Jamie's satisfied smile as they led me away in handcuffs. I saw Beth's cold eyes. I saw my coworkers turning away. I thought about the NDA sitting unsigned in my email. Maybe I should have just signed it. Maybe I should have taken the deal and disappeared. At 2 a.m, I got up and made coffee. I sat at my kitchen table surrounded by documents. Evidence of the payroll fraud. Evidence of my arrest. Evidence of the eviction. Evidence of my destroyed life. I thought about giving up, about going home to my parents, about starting over somewhere else where no one knew my name or my face or my shame. Then I thought about the 1,500 hours, the $75,000, the workers who had labored and never been paid. I thought about Tracy, who had tried to expose this and been broken by it. I thought about Lauren, the new payroll specialist who had just started. Was she the next target? I opened my laptop. I created a new anonymous email account. I researched investigative journalists who covered corporate fraud. I researched labor advocacy groups. I researched every avenue I had not yet tried. If the Department of Labor was too slow, if the legal system was stacked against me, if I was going to lose everything anyway, then I would make sure the truth came out, even if it destroyed me completely in the process. Monday morning, I stood in the courthouse for my arraignment. Jessica was beside me in her professional suit. I wore the only business outfit I still owned that did not have wrinkles from being packed in boxes. The prosecutor presented the evidence against me. $2,300 in fraudulent expense claims, digital records, forged signatures. It all looked damning. The judge set a trial date 6 weeks out. My bail was continued. Outside the courthouse, reporters asked questions. I said nothing. Jessica shielded me. But someone got a photo anyway. It was in the newspaper that afternoon. Accused embezzler leaves court. Tuesday, I had a job interview scheduled before my arrest. They called to cancel. We've decided to go in another direction, the HR person said. I understood. They had Googled me. I applied to 15 more jobs. Retail, food service, anything that might not do a background check. Most never responded. Wednesday brought more bad news. My landlord filed formal eviction proceedings. Court date in 2 weeks. Even though my bank was still investigating the fraudulent stop payments, the judge would likely rule against me without proof the fraud came from an outside source. I had 3 weeks before I was homeless. Thursday afternoon, someone knocked on my door. I looked through the peephole and saw Derek, the IT guy. My first instinct was not to answer, but something about his expression made me open the door a crack. "I need to talk to you," he said quietly. I let him in, but left the door open. If this was a setup, I wanted witnesses. Derek sat on my couch, looking miserable. I couldn't live with myself anymore. "What are you talking about?" He pulled out a USB drive. "I was ordered to access your accounts by Jamie. He had me plant those expense reports. I have the logs showing I did it from my admin account. Timestamps. Everything." My heart started pounding. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because they're doing it again. There's a new payroll specialist, Lauren Walsh. Jamie's already pressuring her to make corrections. If I don't speak up, it just keeps happening." He handed me the drive. "These are the admin logs. Digital forensics will show the expense reports were created using administrator access, not your actual workstation. I'll testify if you need me to." "I'm sorry, Ada. I'm so sorry." After he left, I immediately plugged in the drive. The files were all there. Clear evidence that Derek had accessed my account on specific dates, that the expense reports had been created using admin privileges, that my digital signature had been forged. I made 3 copies immediately, emailed them to Jessica, emailed them to myself, put the original in my lockbox. This was the proof I needed that I had been framed. Friday at lunch, I went to the office building. I could not go inside, but I waited outside. At 12:15, Lauren Walsh came out. She was young, maybe 25, with an eager expression that reminded me of myself a few months ago. "Lauren?" She turned, recognized me, and her expression changed to fear. You were arrested. Those charges are false. I need to talk to you about Jamie Cortland." She backed away slightly. "I'm not supposed to talk to you." I stepped closer, keeping my voice low and urgent. "They're going to do to you what they did to me. Has Jamie asked you to make payroll corrections yet?" Her expression shifted. "How did you know?" "Because I found the fraud. That's why I'm really in trouble. He'll tell you they're timing issues, that you need to fix them quietly. Then when you know too much, they'll destroy you." "I don't. I can't lose this job. I have student loans." "I understand. But you need to protect yourself. Document everything, every conversation, every request. Keep copies of everything they ask you to change." I gave her my phone number written on a scrap of paper. "If anything happens, call me." She took it reluctantly and hurried away. I did not know if I had helped or just made things worse. That weekend, I sat at my kitchen table and took stock. I had evidence of the payroll fraud. I had evidence of being framed. I had Derek willing to testify. I had Tracy's testimony. But none of it mattered if I could not get anyone to listen. The criminal trial would not let me present evidence about payroll fraud. That was not relevant to embezzlement charges. The Department of Labor investigation was moving too slowly. The media would not believe an accused criminal. I needed a different approach. Then I remembered something. Our company had annual audits. External auditors from a big accounting firm came every year to review our books. The audit was scheduled to start in 3 weeks. I looked up the firm, Caldwell and Associates, national firm, reputable. The audit team leader was William Caldwell himself, a senior partner. If I could get the evidence to the auditors before they started, they would have to investigate. They would have access to everything. And they had a legal duty to report fraud. I spent Sunday creating a comprehensive report. Every piece of evidence, every document, timeline, names, amounts, Derek's testimony, Tracy's story, everything. I wrote a cover letter explaining who I was, what I had found, and what had happened to me as a result. Monday morning, I drove 40 minutes to Caldwell and Associates. My hands were shaking as I walked into their lobby. "I need to speak with William Caldwell," I told the receptionist. "Do you have an appointment?" "No, but I have evidence of fraud at one of his client companies." She looked uncertain but made a call. 20 minutes later, an older man in an expensive suit came out to the lobby. "I'm William Caldwell. You said something about fraud? I need 5 minutes of your time." He studied me for a moment, then nodded. "Follow me." In his office, I laid it all out. The 1,500 hours, the deleted wages, the systematic cover-up, the retaliation, the frame-up, everything. William Caldwell listened without interrupting. He reviewed every document carefully. He asked pointed, specific questions. When I finished, he was quiet for a long moment. Miss Brennan, if even half of what you're telling me is true, this represents not just labor law violations, but securities fraud. This would affect our clients' reported labor costs, their financial statements. Can you help? I can't discuss our audit plans with you, but I will tell you this. We take fraud allegations very seriously. We have a duty to investigate them thoroughly. What about my criminal charges? If we find evidence supporting your claims about being framed, we're required to report it to the appropriate authorities. That should help your case. He stood. Don't discuss this with anyone else. We'll handle it from here. I drove home not knowing if I had just saved myself or made everything worse. I had played my last card. Now I had to wait and hope it was enough. The week after my meeting with William Caldwell dragged by. I heard nothing. No calls, no emails, no indication that anything was happening. Tuesday, I found another notice on my door. Eviction hearing scheduled for Friday, 3 days away. I called Jessica. Can we fight this? With the bank still investigating the stopped payments? Probably not successfully. We can try to delay, but the landlord has a strong case on paper. I started packing boxes, accepting that I would probably be homeless soon. Wednesday afternoon, my phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? It was Lauren, the new payroll specialist. Her voice was panicked. Ada, they know we talked. Jamie called me into his office. He asked what we discussed. What did you say? That you approached me and I walked away. But he didn't believe me. He's going through all my work. Every report. Every entry. I think he's building a case against me like he did to you. Get ahead of it, I said. Document everything. Save copies. And Lauren, don't be alone with him. I'm scared. I know. So am I. After she hung up, I realized that if Jamie was investigating Lauren, something had made him nervous. Maybe William Caldwell had started asking questions. Maybe the audit was happening sooner than anyone expected. Thursday morning, someone knocked on my door. I looked through the peephole, and my blood went cold. Jamie Cortland stood in my hallway. I opened the door but kept the chain on. How did you get my address? Employee records, he said calmly. Can we talk? No. I know what you did. You contacted the auditors. I don't know what you mean. Don't play games, Ada. Caldwell called asking unusual questions about payroll procedures. Very specific questions. He stepped closer to the door. You're making a big mistake. I'm not the one who stole $75,000. His pleasant expression disappeared entirely. You think you're some kind of hero? You're a criminal. You were arrested. You're facing prison time. On charges you manufactured. Prove it. His smile was cold. It's your word against mine, and you're the one with the arrest record. He leaned in. I'm offering you one last chance. Drop this. Plead guilty to the embezzlement. Serve your time. Move on with your life. Maybe 18 months if you take a deal. And if I don't, then things get much worse for you, and for anyone who helps you. Derek, Lauren, anyone. The threat was clear and unmistakable. Get off my property, I said. This doesn't end well for you, Ada. Remember I said that. After he left, I immediately called the non-emergency police line. I reported the threatening visit. The dispatcher took my information but said no crime had been committed. I called Jessica and told her everything. That's witness intimidation, she said. Document it. Write down exactly what he said. Thursday afternoon, I tried calling Lauren. No answer. I texted. No response. Finally, at 6 p.m., she texted back. They fired me. Said I was leaking confidential information. Security walked me out. I'm okay, but I can't talk. I'm sorry. My chest tightened. They were eliminating anyone who knew anything. Thursday evening, I got an encrypted message from Derek. They're wiping servers. Something big is happening. Be careful. I responded, Are you safe? For now. They don't know I talked to you, I think. But Ada, the audit team, showed up today. Early. Nobody expected them. Jamie's been in meetings all day. Everyone's nervous. My heart leaped. The auditors had moved up their timeline. William Caldwell was investigating right now. Thank you for telling me. If this goes bad, I'm next. But it was worth it. What they're doing is wrong. Friday morning was my eviction hearing. I stood in housing court with the documentation I had. My bank statements showing I paid rent, the evidence of stopped payments. But the judge asked the crucial question. Where's proof that the stop payment orders came from someone other than you? My bank is still investigating. I believe my account was accessed fraudulently. Do you have a police report for identity theft? I filed a report about a threatening visit, but it doesn't specifically address the bank fraud yet. Without proof the fraud came from an outside source, I have to rule based on what's in front of me. The judge looked apologetic. Eviction granted. 7 days to vacate. I walked out of the courthouse and sat in my car. Everything was falling apart. Criminal trial in 5 weeks. Homeless in 7 days. No job. Mounting legal bills. Depleting savings. I had played my final card with the auditors, and I did not even know if it had worked. My phone rang. Mom. I almost did not answer. Honey, your father and I have been talking. Come home. We'll help you start over somewhere new. I can't just leave. Why not? You've lost everything there anyway. Because if I leave, they win. And they'll do it to someone else. When do you stop being everyone's hero and start taking care of yourself? Her voice broke. I don't know, Mom. I really don't know. After the call ended, I sat in my car and cried. Really cried. For the first time since this started, I let myself feel the full weight of it. The injustice, the fear, the loneliness, the overwhelming sense that I could not win. Maybe Mom was right. Maybe I should just leave, start over, change my name, disappear. I looked at the moving boxes in my back seat, at the eviction notice on my passenger seat, at my phone showing my depleting bank account. Maybe this was unwinnable. Saturday morning, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost ignored it. Miss Brennan? This is William Caldwell. I sat up straight. We need you to come to XYZ Corp on Monday morning. 8A. I'm banned from the building. Not anymore. We're requiring your presence as part of our audit investigation. Did you find something? We can't discuss our findings over the phone. But Miss Brennan, you'll want to be there. And you might want to bring your attorney. The call ended. I sat in stunned silence. Was this good news? Or was it a trap? I called Jessica. Something's happening Monday. I'll be there. Sunday, I barely slept. I kept checking my phone. No other calls, no messages, no indication of what Monday would bring. I packed my only professional outfit. I reviewed all my documentation one more time. I made additional copies of everything and left them with my parents' address in a sealed envelope. If something happened to me, at least the evidence would survive. I wrote a letter to my parents explaining where everything was. Morbid, but necessary. Jamie's threat echoed in my mind. This doesn't end well for you. I set my alarm for 5 a.m. Then I lay in bed staring at my ceiling, knowing that tomorrow everything would change. I just did not know how. Monday morning, I arrived at XYZ Corp at 7:45. Jessica met me in the parking lot. We walked in together, my legs unsteady. The security guard who had watched them arrest me 3 weeks ago now nodded respectfully. Miss Brennan, they're expecting you. Conference room B. We took the elevator up. Walking through the hallways felt surreal. Former co-workers stared. Some looked away. Some whispered. Conference room B had windows overlooking the city. Already seated were William Caldwell and 2 other auditors I did not recognize. There was also a woman I had never seen before, in her 50s, wearing a severe suit that screamed federal authority. She stood and extended her hand. Karen Vance, Assistant United States Attorney. My knees nearly gave out. A federal prosecutor. Please sit, Miss Brennan, William said. Also present was Douglas Harper, the company's CEO. He was in his 60s, semi-retired, usually absent. He looked like he had aged 10 years overnight. William slid a thick report across the table. Miss Brennan, we've completed our preliminary audit investigation. I opened to the summary page. My vision blurred as I read the numbers. Systematic payroll fraud, $1,200,000, over 18 months. I only found 75,000, I whispered. That was the most recent quarter, William said. This goes back much further than you realized. He pulled up a presentation on the screen. Charts, graphs, timelines, deleted time entries going back a year and a half. Hundreds of employees affected, thousands of hours stolen. We found deleted time entries, falsified records, and unauthorized access to accounting systems. He clicked to the next slide. We also found evidence that the expense reports filed in your name were fabricated. He displayed a technical analysis. Digital signatures don't match your actual signing pattern. These were created using administrator access, not your workstation. Karen Vance leaned forward. Which constitutes fraud, identity theft, and witness tampering under federal law. I could not breathe. William continued. Every deleted payroll entry was approved by Jamie Cortland. Every disciplinary action against employees who questioned irregularities was signed off by Beth Winters. Every NDA and termination agreement was drafted by Frank Martinez. He showed a chart tracking the money. The deleted hours reduced reported labor costs. Better labor costs improved profit margins. Better margins triggered executive bonuses. Jamie Cortland received a $40,000 bonus based partly on labor cost reduction. Beth Winters received $25,000. They had a financial motive. Where are they? I asked. Douglas Harper spoke for the first time, his voice heavy. Terminated this morning. Escorted from the building. Karen Vance opened her briefcase. Miss Brennan, we'll need your full statement for our investigation, but I can tell you that your criminal charges are being dropped today. What? The evidence clearly shows you were framed. The district attorney's office is filing paperwork this morning. You should be officially cleared by end of business. Jessica squeezed my hand. I started crying and could not stop. Relief poured through me in waves. William continued. We're also reporting our findings to the Department of Labor. They'll handle employee restitution proceedings. But Miss Brennan, we wanted you to know something. He clicked to another slide showing a list of names. 147 employees affected. We've identified everyone who had hours deleted. The company will be paying full back wages, plus statutory penalties, plus interest. Douglas Harper nodded. It's the right thing to do, and legally we have no choice. What about the workers? When will they get their money? We're beginning notifications today, William said. Most payments will be processed within 2 weeks. I looked at the list of names on the screen. Parents who had worked overtime, people who had taken extra shifts, all of them about to get paid what they were owed. Karen Vance stood. Miss Brennan, I want you to know that Jamie Cortland, Beth Winters, and Frank Martinez are being arrested this afternoon. Federal charges. Wire fraud, identity theft, conspiracy, witness tampering. They're each looking at significant prison time. Their professional licenses will be revoked. Civil suits from affected employees will follow. Their lives, their careers, everything they built through fraud and manipulation, it's over. Later that afternoon, the company sent an all-staff email. I read it on my phone from the parking lot. Following an external audit, we have identified serious payroll irregularities. Jamie Cortland, Beth Winters, and Frank Martinez have been terminated for cause. A full investigation is underway. Affected employees will be contacted directly regarding restitution. The email continued. We want to acknowledge Ada Brennan, who acted with integrity and courage in bringing these matters to light. Miss Brennan's actions led directly to this discovery and resolution. My phone exploded with messages, former coworkers apologizing. Hannah texted, I'm so sorry. I should have believed you. I responded simply, thank you. Derek messaged, thank you for being braver than I was. Lauren called. They offered me my job back, with a raise and a formal apology. Because of you. The next morning, the district attorney's office officially dismissed all charges against me. My arrest record was expunged. It would be as though it never happened. My bank completed their investigation. The fraudulent stop payment orders had originated from an unauthorized external access to my account. My eviction case was dismissed. My landlord called to apologize. I should have listened to you, Greg said. Yes, I replied. You should have. 2 days later, the local news covered the story. Corporate whistleblower exposes $1 million fraud. They interviewed me in my apartment. You lost everything, the reporter said. Your job, your reputation, you were arrested. Was it worth it? 147 people are getting their wages back, I said. People who worked hard and never got paid. Yes, it was worth it. But you nearly went to prison on false charges. I looked directly at the camera. If we don't stand up when we see injustice, who will? I was terrified. I'm still terrified. But those workers deserve their money. And sometimes doing the right thing costs everything. The following week, Douglas Harper called me into his office. Ada, I owe you an enormous apology. As CEO, I should have had systems in place to prevent this. That failure is mine. He slid a new employment contract across his desk. Senior Payroll Director, 50% raise, direct report to me, authority to implement whatever controls and oversight you deem necessary. I reviewed the contract carefully. This time, I negotiated. Job title, salary, authority, reporting structure, protection for future whistleblowers. I accept, on my terms. Douglas smiled. I wouldn't have it any other way. My first action was implementing an anonymous reporting system with protections. My second was hiring Lauren as my assistant. My third was tracking down Tracy Sullivan and Scott Hammond and the other former employees who had been silenced. We're getting you restitution too, I told Tracy over the phone. For what they did to you, she cried. Thank you. Thank you for finishing what I couldn't. Over the following months, the full scope emerged. The Department of Labor completed their investigation. Total fraud, $1,400,000. 147 employees affected. Every single one received full back pay, plus penalties, plus interest. Jamie, Beth, and Frank were each convicted on federal charges. Jamie got 8 years, Beth got 6. Frank got 5. Their professional licenses were revoked permanently. Civil suits from affected employees added millions more in damages. 3 months after it all began, I sat in my new corner office. The windows overlooked the same parking garage where I used to sit in my car, terrified and alone. There was a knock on my door. A young man, nervous, holding a folder. Miss Brennan? I found something weird in the accounts payable system. I smiled. Come in. Tell me everything. He sat down and showed me the documentation. I listened carefully, took notes, asked questions. You did exactly the right thing bringing this to me. Let's figure out what's happening. After he left, I looked at the documentation. Nothing fraudulent, just a legitimate error that needed correcting. But the fact that he felt safe bringing it to me, that he trusted the system would work, that mattered. I picked up my phone and called the appropriate department to fix it. Then I sat back and looked out my window. The cost had been enormous. Weeks of terror, arrest, public humiliation, nearly homeless, destroyed reputation, sleepless nights, crying on my apartment floor. But 147 people got their money back. 3 criminals went to prison. Systems changed. Protections were implemented. And I could look at myself in the mirror. Some battles you don't choose. They choose you. And when they do, you only have 2 options. Fight or live with yourself for walking away. I fought, and I won. Not because I was brave, I was terrified every single day, but because 1,500 hours meant something. Those hours represented real people, real work, real families. They tried to make me disappear, tried to make the truth disappear. But some things won't stay buried. Not when someone's willing to dig. Not when someone's willing to stand. He stood, and I'm still standing. That evening I drove home to my apartment, the one I had almost lost. My parents were visiting, flying in to celebrate my victory. Over dinner, my mom reached across the table and held my hand. I'm proud of you, she said. And terrified for you, but mostly proud. You're tougher than I gave you credit for, Dad added. I didn't feel tough, I said. I felt scared every single day. Mom smiled. Courage isn't not being afraid. It's doing it anyway. Later, alone in my apartment, I thought about everything. The workers who got paid, the system that got fixed, the criminals who faced justice. And I thought about the next person who would find something wrong, the next whistleblower who would have to decide whether to speak up or stay silent. Because of what I did, they would have protections, they would have systems, they would have someone who understood. That made it worth it. Every single terrifying moment of it. Now, I want to ask you something. Have you ever witnessed something wrong at work and struggled with whether to speak up? What would you do if reporting it meant losing everything? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button. It helps more people find stories about standing up for what's right, even when it's hard. And if you want to hear more stories about courage, justice, and people who refuse to back down, subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications. Share this with someone who needs to hear it, someone who's facing a difficult choice, someone who needs to know that doing the right thing, even when it costs everything, is always worth it. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I hope it reminds you that one person can make a difference, that integrity matters, that courage isn't the absence of fear, it's acting despite it. Stay strong, stay brave, and never stop fighting for what's right.